Hi everybody, my name is Mike Broihier. I'm a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel, former rural journalist and educator, and I'm a farmer in Lincoln County, Kentucky. And now I'm a candidate for U.S. Senate, Democrat running against Mitch McConnell. Since I declared my candidacy back in July of last year, I've been talking constantly on the campaign trail about the destructive nature of the transactional type of leadership that we have in Washington today. Whether it's our healthcare system that is unjustly tied to people's employment, or our relationship with foreign country. Everything is literally a quid pro quo. And now, during the time of pandemic, the first time our system has truly been stressed in 100 years, we are seeing the results of this kind of destructive leadership in Washington, where the President of the United States and the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, are happy to pit states against each other. Because while we are fighting for equipment and materiel, for PPE, for masks, for gloves, for gowns, the things that our frontline workers need to protect themselves as they try to provide care to people who are very, very sick and people who are dying. They are busy in Washington rolling back environmental protections and suppressing votes. So over the course of the next couple of videos that I will make for you, I'm going to talk about some issues that are important to me, because it's important for us to come to agreement on a few things. You need to be able to select a candidate whose values you share. You need to select a candidate who can beat Mitch McConnell. And you need to select a candidate that can lead us through this pandemic and out from the ensuing recession or depression that is sure to follow. So I'll be happy to share my thoughts with you on a couple of important issues, and I hope you get your questions answered. Since the beginning of my campaign last July, I've talked about the importance of us transitioning to a universal healthcare system, a single-payer healthcare system, where you do not have to have private insurance, where your insurance is not tied to your place of employment. As we've seen during this pandemic, just last month alone, we put 20 million people on unemployment. 20 million families, 20 million households who have probably lost the healthcare they've got because it is tied to their employment. And this exposes a fundamental flaw and weakness in that system. So when I began my campaign, I wanted to build from the ground up a universal healthcare system, single payer system. And the way I thought that was the least disruptive to our economy was to maintain the Affordable Care Act with a public option. Now that we're in a time of pandemic, all bets are off. As I mentioned, we had 20 million people just last month alone go on unemployment and probably lose their health care. It's proven that the system does not work. So I'm ready to say right now the gloves are off. We need to blow open access to Medicare and provide Medicare for all. We need people to be able to go to the doctor when they're feeling ill. We need people to go to the doctor to have preventative procedures done, to get a checkup. We need people to go to the doctor if they're having emotional problems. They need to be able to go to the dentist or the optometrist if they need it. They should not be splitting pills or rationing medicine so they can make the rent the next month. We are the richest nation in the history of the world, and there's absolutely no reason that our elderly have to be rationing their own medications so they can just pay the bills. So with my plan, we are going to open up Medicare for everybody during the time of this coronavirus crisis. And while that is going on, we'll begin building a true single-payer healthcare system, very similar to the model used in Canada, which has a high level of customer satisfaction, high level of efficiencies, and people get to go to their doctor when they're just beginning to feel ill or just for a checkup, and they don't wait till they're in a mental health or a physical health crisis to go see their physician. I have a plan to work with the states, the 8 states that comprise Appalachian coal country, the senators, congressmen, and governors, regardless of their party, to come up with a plan to build a long-term revitalization effort for all of Appalachian coal country and turn Appalachian coal country into an energy hub for the eastern half of the United States. Now, I think that we've lost our opportunity to make the energy companies and the coal companies that have fled with the wealth of our Appalachian coal production producing areas. So We need to go to Washington as 8 states and tell the people there that Appalachian coal fired the engines that built our great cities, that built our railroads, that built our bridges and our highways. And since we've let the coal companies off the hook, it's on the American public to take part in funding this revitalization. So my plan is this: we will use the federal government's power to build solar, to build wind production facilities in Appalachia. We will clean up the mess left behind by the coal companies, and will provide good jobs, union-paying jobs, prevailing wage-paying jobs with benefits for people, and have the people of Appalachia themselves build this, and they'll have jobs, their children will have jobs, and on the far side of this, even if you don't believe in climate change, we'll have great infrastructure in Appalachia, we'll have rural broadband, we'll have roads, hospitals, clean drinking water, and jobs for the future. Oh, by the way, we'll be mitigating the effects of our carbon footprint by turning over to green energy. The first thing you need to understand is this, is that the problem with immigration in this country begins far away from America's borders. We have created conditions, particularly in Central America, by meddling around with the governments there and having created narco states and created police states that are driving people away from their homes and wanting them to come here for safety. So the first thing we need to do is to stop fooling around in other people's business. Now, what else we need to do is this: we need to completely revitalize the State Department. For the last 3 years, there's the president and his administration have done everything they could to gut the U.S. Department of State. The State Department runs critical programs overseas that allows people to learn about our country, to decide whether or not they want to come here, and we can vet people in their own countries and give them visas and let them come to this country legally. I'd work with trade unions, with labor unions, and with the U.S. Department of Labor to create a system where we actually set quotas based on the true labor needs of America, and we allow people to come here who just want to come here to work. And there are a lot of people who want to come here to work and then go home, to come here with a passport in their hands and a visa, and then come here to work, they'll pay taxes, and they'll be protected, because the people who are exploited the most, undocumented migrant labor, gets abused within our system. Finally, we'll create a clear pathway to make sure that we enshrine DACA in the law, and that all those people who came out into the light and wanted to become U.S. citizens, declared themselves because they trusted us, will have a safe path to citizenship. In many, many states, voter suppression is widespread, and it's getting worse. Just here in Kentucky, Senate Bill 2 was vetoed by the governor and overridden by Republican-controlled House and Senate, which is demanding that we have tough voter ID laws. And this was done in testimony by experts that there was zero in-person voter fraud in Kentucky. The only reason people are doing this, the only reason Republicans are doing this, is because they want to suppress voter turnout. So, as your U.S. Senator, I will ensure that by defeating Mitch McConnell and getting him out of the way, we get H.R. 1, which was introduced in January of 2019, to a vote in the floor of the Senate, and let people discuss the important aspects of this bill, which includes a plan to get rid of the state's ability to gerrymander their districts to suppress votes. It allows for voting by mail, which is a proven system that is very, very secure, and actually increases the number of people who vote, and it lets people vote more thoughtfully. Also, I'm absolutely for restoring voting rights to felons who have done their time and made their way out of prison, and I want to make sure that we do not allow onerous laws to be passed that require an unusual level of identification for people to exercise the franchise.